for having me here. When you talked about fragmentation, a concept triggered my mind. The fragmentation of contracts is one of the kind of points I would ask policy experts to consider in the kind of implementation cost of implementing a kind of stuff, because what you see in the kind of market, and my job, I'm not in the policy world, I'm out there talking with regulators and customers around cloud projects in different domains. And may I share a couple of those kind of experience we came across in the last couple of years. So what changed in those kind of conversations is an interesting kind, thank you so much, an interesting kind of journey towards the kind of engagement. So basically every single contract negotiation has this component about security, trust. That's the reason why I asked you about the trust component, because from our understanding and the lessons learned, trust is a much broader societal kind of value in a way, and you can't comply to this requirement with formal, let's say, attestation, certifications in a way. So we learned a lot around those kind of, let's say, trust conversations in technologies, in operators, among stakeholders in a way. What we also do, and this was the kind of initial learnings, that of course customers expressed concerns or questions of curiosity. In the meantime, it becomes a normal part of this kind of conversations. And what we also build up is, from our perspective, a lot of experience, because the pattern of questions is quite repetitive in a way. So there's a kind of standardization in the interaction observable, which I think is a good thing, because it becomes a kind of new norm in the interaction between a technology provider and customers, how to address it in a way. And so over time we build up, for instance, for one service, I don't want to mention any product name, but for one of our services, more than 1,000 different security and compliance controls, way broader than any of the kind of European kind of legal requirements. But the reason why we extended this kind of control framework, because the member states had additional requirements. And so the quote fragmentation in the member states forced us to extend our basically compliance frameworks beyond the kind of regional ones in a way. And I do think there's an opportunity for Europe as a market to continue this harmonization approach, that basically even on the compliance side, the standardization goes forward in a way. And I do think that one part could be standardized certifications. Certifications has some other implications on innovation, and basically the bad guys don't standardize their attacks. So the defense can't be standardized as a way without limiting itself. So what we also see is that some industries are really leading in the kind of concept, understanding and internalizing risk management. So for instance, the banking industry, the financial services sector, the insurance companies have hundreds of years of experience how to manage risk in a way. Unfortunately, not all sectors, and also public sector in some ways, have the very same competence about risk management, which adds to the kind of, let's say, then sometimes the challenge to have this rational debate about risk mitigation, trust building, security, things like that. What we also see is that the term cloud seems to be an overloaded term, so thank you so much for supporting the kind of conversation with a standardized definition. But in the context of security and compliance, one dimension of attributes are really differentiating. I want to share it in a way because it comes across in many of those kind of conversations. Number one, if it's a standardized service with a standardized contract and it's multi-tenant, then the impact and the effort for compliance and security drastically reduces in a way. Standardized service, standardized contract, and basically multi-tenancy significantly reduces the cost and effort for compliance and security in a way. And the reason is very simple, because if you're doing, for instance, a certification, coming back to what you said, certification might be one of the tools you're thinking about. If there is a standard and the standard is being a certification standard is being implemented, and it's a standard contract between the two parties. In data protection, we would call it data controller, data processor, but there are other legal domains as well. But if it's a standard contract, basically the cost of compliance can be divided by the numbers of tenants. And typically in enterprise cloud environments, we have hundreds of thousands, maybe millions of of tenants or customers in a way. So the cost of compliancy can be equally divided by the number of tenants in a way, which structurally differentiate this term of hyperscale, we call it hyperscale or enterprise cloud, versus other IT provision systems where basically the cost of compliance is a one-off per contract kind of thing. And so my offer is consider please this kind of cost of implementation of a political instrument in a way, because then the burden is with the customer carrying the effort of implementing it in a way. So many cloud customers we have, and we have a bank or a financial institution here, are operating in multiple jurisdictions. So what we see is that they appreciate our investment to basically take one service coming back, one service, one contract multi-tenant, that we are basically using the very same service to certify against multiple regional and global standards in a way, simplifying then the cost of compliancy on a global base, especially for those European economic entities who would like to export their services in a way. So we become basically a preferred partner for them because it's the most effective way to be compliant in the kind of global platform in a way. What we also hear quite often from companies is that they look forward to the efficient implementation of the digital single market, because at the end of the day, it's the standardization of the market conditions which helps them to streamline the business and grow the home market they're normally working in. Another complementary kind of thing, what we see is, and as an example, just a week ago, the Spanish National Security Agency, not to be compared with the famous three-letter agency, but the National Security Authority in Spain, ENS, approved our control framework. So what we did, we worked very long, and as I said, we had for one service about 1,000 security controls. And the Spanish requirements were unique. Nobody else versus Spain had this very, let's say, explicit subset of what we consider 1,000 ones. So we mapped our internal framework to the requirements in Spain and basically got approval by the authorities so that basically our cloud service is compliant to their national regulation. So I consider this a kind of excellent kind of result, but on the broader picture, it might be an opportunity to define basically at European levels those kind of things so that government agencies and federal governments in the member states can basically standardize their kind of requirements. I think it would be helpful for smaller cloud providers, European cloud providers as well in a way. And so just to sum it up, my 7 minutes in a way, the cloud adoption is growing by the months. It's really interesting to see the kind of growth, and surprisingly, at least not surprisingly now, but surprisingly probably 2 or 3 years ago, most of the adoption triggers comes from cost of compliancy and cost of security implementation. The cloud, through this concept of single contract, single service, a single standardized service, standardized contract, and multi-tenancy is providing. So thank you very much.